So in this video, I'm going to talk about a very important part of copy, which is the actual copy editing technically. So what that pertains to is not just editing in a general sense, but it also has to do with fact checking, checking for neutrality, meaning like if it's a news story, then the author's opinion should not be obvious from their writing. And if something reads as if it's a little bit biased, then that's a big problem for anything that's not a column. So a column would almost always be in the opinion section. So those definitely can have bias because that's what their section is based off of. But there's also sometimes sports columns where like a sports writer will give an opinion of like this player is doing good, this player didn't do very good. So that kind of thing can have bias just because it's a column and columns are going to be opinion based. But other than that, in this video, I'm not going to show you exactly how I would look things up to fact check them, but I am going to just go through three separate stories and kind of show you what kind of things you will be looking up when you are copy editing. So what I did was I went to the content doc, I clicked on a story, and then you open it in Snow, and then you'll have to log in, and then it will look like this. So this is Snow, WordPress, whatever you want to call it. And this is where our story is, and it can be edited by us and the editors and assistants before it gets published. And so like over here is what it'll look like. This is what it looks like once it is published already. But this is one that there were things that you would definitely be looking up to fact check. We have the headline here. This is the permalink. So that means like on the Daily Line I website, this is a link that'll be at the top. Or if you were to click on this link, it would take you to the Daily Line I page. And then down here, you can see a preview of what the story looks like from like Google. This is SEO. That's search engine optimization. We try and come up with a phrase that seems relevant to the story, and it should be something that somebody might search on Google. But that is more the responsibility of a slotter or an assistant, as well as me, to have that filled out. Down here, we have like the writer's names, job titles. This one, they didn't put a job title just because there's like three authors, and it would take up like 3 lines to put all of their job titles. Here's categories so that like shows you on the Daily Line I website, you could click like a certain section, and then they have things within the section that they talk about. And there's a bunch of like old categories that are used or that have been used in the past. Yeah. And so when you're done with the story, you will click this, the edit, and then you'll click this, and it gives you an option. So if you're a copy editor, you click copy edited once you're done. It should be second edited before you, so that's how it should be when you first click on the story. Yeah, but so in this one, I can immediately see it's about like the engineering pathways program at U of I. And so honestly, the first thing that I would search is engineering pathways program UIUC on Google. Check for the spelling, the capitalization, stuff like that. And I go into this next sentence and I see a year. A year is something that you should always double check on. So they're saying that the engineering pathways program has been offered since 2010. Just give a quick Google search, make sure that's true. And then here, Granger College of Engineering. That's something like I know that it's called that by now, but if you are unsure, that's something you would Google. Just make sure the spelling in capitalization is correct, the words are all in the right order. Um, like if it was just College of Engineering, then you would need to add Granger because that is actually what our College of Engineering is called. Um, yeah, and then you can see, yeah, all of this information about the program is true. And then I'd go to the next one. And like at this point, I would probably want to find like a web page about this program and just make sure that these facts are correct um, because we are stating them as if they are correct from whatever source we got them from. And then this next one, I see a name, and that's something you have to look up right away. Right when you see it, you should look it up, even if you think you know what the person's title is. Like if it's like Brett Bielema, who's our football coach, uh, you should still be double checking because sometimes you can convince yourself that you know the spelling and then you don't. Um, I have seen that happen a lot of times with sometimes like I've seen Steven Spielberg's name misspelled in the story, and that's something that you can so easily fix. Even if you think you know how to spell it, sometimes you don't. And that's the purpose of copy editing to catch those mistakes because those can be really embarrassing if our readers see it. Um, yeah, so with this name, I would look them up, hopefully find them on LinkedIn, see what their position is. Does it match this? Um, I would say that is something that people get wrong a lot is somebody's position. I usually go with what it says on their LinkedIn um, because they wouldn't put it on there if that's not what their position is. So then I would keep on going, and now I see a student's name. This is the structure of how we would introduce a student source in a story. So first, last name, comma, grade in school, in, and then college. All of the correct spellings for like the colleges, as well as abbreviations, are on the style guide. Um, and so that's something that you will hopefully get better at recognizing, making sure LAS is abbreviated, ACES is abbreviated, and we don't, and for undergraduate students, we don't say what their major is. We would never say Lucas Pruitt majoring in mechanical engineering. We wouldn't say that because as an undergrad, we're probably just getting their opinion on something unrelated to their major, and that's why we would just put which college they're in, because it also shows our readers that we're getting uh, different kinds of sources. Like, not all of our sources would be from engineering, except in this story is different because it's about an engineering program. But if we are interviewing about COVID, we would hopefully get opinions from students in different colleges. Um, and then I don't see much else to fact check, but there's also like style things that you should be looking at while reading. Um, AP style of the attribution, check for curly quotes. So this is what a curly quote looks like. Sometimes in stories, it's just like a weird formatting thing that happens, but sometimes they won't be curly and instead they're gonna look like this, and it looks really ugly, and it's kind of like a sign of bad journalism, not in a traditional sense, but more like it's the little things that count. Like to me, if I see a website with straight quotes in an article, I feel that's a lot less reliable just because it's bad typography. And so like this is where you could find curly quotes to copy and paste from. However, you should really learn the keyboard shortcuts associated with these because it would save you so much time. I think I only learned the keyboard shortcuts. Sorry, like last year. In my first 2 years, I certainly could have been so much faster if I could do those. Um, but yeah, if you see a straight quote, that is something you should always be changing. Um, and it's something that, like, if I go in a story after you and I still see straight quotes, it kind of makes me feel like, how much did they really look at the story? Um, so that's why it's definitely something you should be changing as well because it's kind of an indicator of if you actually edited the story or not. But other than that, not anything else to fact check for this one. So I'll move on to a buzz one. So this is going to be about a new song that got released. So I'd immediately look up this person. I don't really know him, but he's a singer, it looks like. I would look at the titles of his songs, and this is definitely something that I did look at the titles of songs for online, um, because I saw that they were lowercase, and I wanted to make sure that's the right spelling, right capitalization, right? And then songs and albums in AP style will always have quotes around them, like double quotes. And they will be curly and not straight quotes. And there will never be a case where you would use a straight quote. And then I go here, I see a date, and I would immediately look up for the release date of I Can't Help It by JVKE. I don't know how to pronounce it. And then I would keep reading, make sure that these names are consistent, like the song names that keep on getting repeated, make sure they're consistent. If a song title were in the headline, then instead of double quotes like this, we would actually do single quotes. So that would look like, so like instead of that, it would be that. And then you would do, I, obviously you would fix this to be lowercase I. Um, so it would look like this in the headline. But I'm not changing that because this is a good headline. And then I would keep on going. I would see, okay, an Elvis Presley song. Um, is this how you spell it? Is this how you capitalize it? That's something you'd search. 1961, I see a year. I would make sure that this song was actually written in that year or came out in that year, you know. Um, this is not too much to worry about here. Uh, let's see. So a lot of this you would still be reading to edit for other things, but there's not too much in this section that would be fact checked. But then you get to here and we see a quote. I would search that quote uh, with the song title, make sure that's actually how the song goes. Um, like that's how the lyrics go. Um, so I would keep on going, and it looks like we got everything to fact check. But even after you do that, it would still be a good idea to go back to the top and read it again. Now that you know everything's correct factually, make sure that it's correct grammatically. Uh, make sure that it follows AP and DI style. Yeah. And then this last one to look at is a sports story. Sports stories have so much to copy edit, even if they're not this long. Uh, but there's so many facts in here, so many names, so many positions, and every single one you have to fact check. Like now I'm at the point where I know that 50 that Tommy DeVito is capitalized like this and that he's a fifth year senior who's our quarterback. And that's just something that I've learned because I've looked up his name so many times until I know for sure that that's actually the facts about him. Um, so I see Saturday, make sure that's when the football game was, and it was. I would look up what Wyoming's mascot was, make sure this is correct, check the score. Yes, it was a home game, so that's correct. Uh, yeah, again, this is the name you would look up until you know for sure that this is true. And then I see um, anything like this, you should try to fact check. Sometimes when a game just happens, it can be a little bit harder to find exactly like the facts like that, but you can find them. Um, and I'll show you some resources of where to find things after we just kind of point out what to look at. Uh, Brett Bielema, make sure his name's spelled right. Make sure that he is the head coach. Uh, make sure this name, position, title is all correct. And then this one. And then you keep on going. Um, and then somebody from the other team who you probably won't know. You should definitely be looking them up though. And then see just tons of names and titles to go through to make sure that they're right because we do sometimes see that they are incorrect. Um, like I used to see DeVito spelled with a lowercase v, and that's something that you want to fix and keep consistent. Yeah, so there's more names. Try and find whatever of these facts in here that you can. Uh, but like for this story in particular, it was like we had a writer there at the game writing this as it happened. So you can hope that it's all correct, but we always want to double check because sometimes these are written really quickly because they're trying to get them out as quickly as they can. Um, so I see this. That should be changed. And then something like red zone. I don't know sports enough to know if that's correct, so I would look it up, you know. Keep on going. Another new name. And you only have to look up the name once per story because once it's their second time, then they'll just be referred to as their last name, and then you don't have to look it up that time. Um, More names to look up. And this is especially because it's like the first game of the season, kind of trying to introduce all the different players. So that also plays a part in why there's every single player mentioned, right? Um, More facts that hopefully you can look up and find. Um, D line, that's something you would look up online, make sure that's how it should be. And then check that. Was that the score at halftime? It looks like. So that's something you would look up. See just a bunch of facts. Um, and yeah, you would just keep on doing that for the rest of this. And then, like, usually at the end of a sports story, um, if it's like talking about a game that just happened, then they'll like talk about the next game that's going to happen. You'll want to make sure that the location's correct, the team they're playing is correct, the day, the time, yeah, everything like that. Um, and so other than that, Yeah, there's the straight quotes. So none of those were really like uh news kind of story. Like this one, you might look for it being neutral. And sometimes like it's not always just a writer putting their opinion. It could also be them implying that somebody else feels a certain way. That's something to look for as well because uh, you can't just assume that somebody feels some way about um, a topic unless they specifically say it, you know? But other than that, uh, I think the next step is for you to reach out to me, tell me that you finished watching these videos, and then from there, I would like to kind of do like a couple practice stories with you. That can just be over Zoom. Um, I would like to do like one or two at least, like with you at the same time. So then I can see like what you notice, and I can also see what you might not notice. And that'll definitely help you feel more prepared when you're editing on your own. But yeah, thank you for listening. And let me know that you're done as soon as possible so we can set up something else. All right.